Welcome to the Low Carb MD podcast. No one is beyond help. No one is beyond hope.
As we have always said, we are bringing you medical information and cutting-edge science, but none of this is medical advice. Please seek out input from your own doctor.
Hello and welcome back to the Low Carb MD podcast. Tro, we have a miracle guest today. Is that right?
We do have a miracle guest. We have a great guest today, Samuel Miller, and his story absolutely inspired me. I saw his story first on social media, TikTok, and I followed him, and I just reached out to him, and I was like, I just have to get you on this podcast. And let me tell you briefly about the story of Sam Miller, and he can obviously add more color to it. He had an 85-degree kyphoscoliosis, right? Which means that his spine literally looks like an S. And he was ineligible for surgery. They told him he, basically has no chance of at a normal life. And I saw his journey through correction and healing through what he shared on TikTok. And the fact that he had to face a system that probably did not want to help him, and yet he kept pursuing and overcame, was so inspiring to me. I cold messaged him. I'm like, Sam, come on our podcast, and he agreed. So Sam, it's awesome to be here. This is Tro and Brian, and we're just happy to have you here and hear your story.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited, and it really kind of gets me going to dive into this topic because I know this is helping a lot of people for reasons that you mentioned with the system, but then also just the mental and physical hurdles that people with the severe postural deficiencies have to overcome. And I agree. There's certainly a lack of assistance from the medical system if it's not surgery. Scoliosis is really seen, okay, surgery or not. And as a teenager, you've got to decide what you're going to do. And that's a lot to ask.
Can I, before we get into your journey, I want to give a brief prelude. I've had chronic neck and back pain for countless years, for as long as I can remember, over 20 years. I ended up having spinal surgery in my neck, and it went horribly wrong. I'm left with atrophy, and it didn't go horribly wrong, but it didn't get the effects that everybody was hoping. And I ended up with chronic lower back pain due to some of the atrophy and some existing sort of issues. And the same thing, went to a doctor, they said, you need surgery. And I'm like, are you kidding me? After the surgery I just went through, you're going to tell me I need more surgery? And they sent me to physical therapists who really, I found I could not get insight from. And I sought out, physical therapist after physical therapist, chiropractor, kinesiologist. And at the end of the day, I was, if I didn't have what you said, which is that mindset of like, I will conquer this, without surgery, without injections, and I would try to figure this out, right? I would try to do the best I can. I would have been in such a vulnerable place. And so when I found your story, I completely resonated. I'm like, this is the kind of people we need to elevate, people who have taken the worst of the worst and made incredible, incredible journeys of healing. And so I just want to let you know, you've personally inspired me. So I'm happy to have you here. I wanted to hear more about it. So help us start from the beginning.
As a teenager, I started developing a severe kyphoscoliosis. So scoliosis is our lateral side-to-side curve, and then kyphosis is the forward neck. So I have a kyphoscoliosis, which is essentially a corkscrew with an 85-degree curve in there. And it developed really at a phase in my life where I was, you just kind of try to ignore it. I was on the computer a lot, and I just kind of let it sink in and cement in. And it's in that moment that I wish I had stronger guidance. When I was 18, I went to a orthopedic surgeon, and with the X-rays, and that conversation was either, are we going to have surgery or not? It's not what's the best thing you can do in this moment. It's really, are you going to have surgery or not? I was still functional. I guess I kind of made enough compensations. I had a lot of numbing, aching pain throughout those years that was part of that setting in all of these different compensations that I had in my infrastructure. And because I wasn't in a debilitating state and the curve was quite severe, I wasn't eligible for surgery. So it was like, sorry, we can't help you. All the best on your journey. And that was the beginning, I guess, of about 15 years of just kind of living with it, just kind of like kind of paying attention to it, but kind of ignoring it. Like just kind of like, okay, it is what it is. I can't do much about it. Like I can't get surgery, so therefore I can't do much about it. In terms of where it came from, I believe it's technically idiopathic, which means it's undiagnosed. But I believe there was a trauma when I was about 12 years old, and we were playing in a river, and I got my ankle slip knotted in the rapids in an unfortunate situation. So my ankle was literally kind of being tugged and yanked in the downstream of the current, and I was struggling to get to my ankle to release myself from the rapids. And I believe in that moment, I did quite a bit of tearing to the groin, and then also a crushing in my mid spine. So my T10 vertebrae is actually very wedge shaped, and that's really been at the core of kind of where this severe curve comes from.
And so, just for the listener, when you have a spinal fracture or a trauma at that while you're growing up, the body is amazing. It will adapt, and and that's what it does. And as it adapts, you compensate and you compensate. But years later, you understand the implications of these compensations.
Which is a great point to, I guess, to continue the next phase of the story. My body had compensated in the hips. So because I had this unstable, thoracic and spine higher up, my hips, and especially my psoas muscles, were doing a lot of work. Instead of my glutes, my lower back and my psoas had started to tighten up to try to hold this structure up. And
a lot of times the pelvic will twist. So, that's what we're looking for when we're looking for scoliosis, just one hip bone's higher than the other. When you bend over, we could see that. Yep.
And I always just thought that, I'm just not good at hip flexibility, right? Like those deep squats, I just kind of couldn't go into that region. I just thought that's not for me. But in actuality, that was something that I should have been paying all my attention to, because at 33, I'm 38 right now. At 33, my body started shutting down and couldn't figure out why. And this is when this took me very deep into the process that I'm in now of learning how we can unlock healthy flow in our body and allow our body to heal itself. At 33, my immune system started shutting down. I had constipation. Originally, the doctor said IBS, here's some antibiotics. Didn't feel right. It felt different. So I didn't do that in the beginning, although after 8 months.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Sam,
yeah. Throwing her like biting our tongue for a second. IBS, here's antibiotics to help you.
What a joke. It's like we don't know why. Well, did you know that the psoas muscles massage the bowels, right? And if you have a severe hip issue and one psoas isn't moving, right, that your bowel is not getting massaged. Like, here, take a medication.
Here's some antibiotics. You should be fine. And Sam, I want to step back because I really want to hear your story. But I'm wondering, just stepping back, you're an 18-year-old guy. Like with the severe scoliosis, did that limit you in sports? Did you have, you want to play sports, they won't let you play, or you couldn't perform as well? And how did it affect you emotionally? Was it did you feel like self-conscious or anything like that, or was it not really noticeable to other people?
Is it? Yeah. So the mental aspect of this as a teenager, getting called hunchback in school, I mean, it was severe. And at that point, I hadn't really done too much work. I started going to the gym at that point. I didn't know really what I was doing. I was just doing kind of generic gym stuff. The mental aspect is heavy, and it hurt hearing that from the doctor because I thought that's my only chance at kind of having a normal life. But then he's like, well, with the risks and the complications that can happen in this, you might have less function, you know? So I'm grateful that it went that way at that point. I would rather have gone on this process than to have to deal with a straighter spine, but that foreign rigidity in the body. I don't know. I prefer the path that I've been on, but it is heavy mentally to process that. You're never going to be perfect. You're never going to have this great looking, kind of structure. That insecurities pop up. I wouldn't take my shirt off when we're swimming at a river or the beach. I just kind of tried to hide. I wouldn't bend over in public, right? Because when you bend over, it becomes very visible. So it's a heavy process, but at the same time, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And those types of challenges and introspection that you go through as you're like, okay, why am I caring about their opinion of me and what I look like in my process? It can take you on a healthy and productive journey, but it's certainly tough to handle for a teenager. And that's a big aspect of wanting to help other people now. That age is just really like it's a big process to face when you are giving x-rays and diagnoses that you don't understand. They're using vocabulary that you don't understand, and all the options are kind of out of your grasp, and you're not really empowered to do anything about it, but you still kind of have to deal with the consequences.
Yeah, so it can be, and I think a lot of people don't understand this, it can be very disempowering once the medical system doesn't have a intervention to profit off of, right? It can be very disempowering, and because nobody's invested in outcomes in medicine, right? Nobody's invested in, is Sam's quality of life improving? Can we get his quality of life to improve, right? And that's a problem, right? That's a huge problem, and you had to find it for yourself. I mean, and I think there's power in that journey, but shouldn't we as providers be like looking to do that, right?
And there's nothing worse than hearing there's nothing we can do. You have a chronic progressive disease. This is what they've said about diabetes, hypertension, obesity, whatever it is. Like, oh, it's just genetic. You have nothing you can do about it. Well, you disempower the patient at that point. Like you to say either surgery or nothing. If you do nothing, well, when you're 40, you're going to be bent over and you can't look up at people anymore. I mean, it's horrific. It's horrific to go through that, especially when you're an 18-year-old kid and you're trying to figure out life. Like, what do I do when this is going to be worse down the road? Maybe
Yep. In the moment when you have the most opportunity to be empowered and choose the direction that you want your spine to evolve in, your whole structure, really, like that is the moment when we need intense tools and guidance. Like it's in those teenage years when it's forming, when you have the most malleable kind of structure to work with.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Time is tissue. Right. So, if you get to the point where, that scoliosis or it's just simple things like strengthening up and below the above and below that problem. I mean, this is something, I'm sure it came easy to Brian, but I had to understand this, for my chronic lower back pain, right. And my massive disc bulges and for me to begin to heal, I had to increase my hip mobility and my glute strength, right? That pulls down on the spine and it anchors it, right? I had to increase my lat strength, right? It pulls up on the spine, right? I had to increase my thoracic extension. I had to focus on my mobility in my thoracic spine for my lumbar spine to heal. So going above and below the part of this, that part that you need to work on, these basic concepts, I'm a certified personal trainer. I'm a board certified internist, obesity doctor. And these are like, I might as well have known nothing, right? I might as well have known. And then I watch your videos and it's like right there, you get this insight that may have taken me 20 years to give. It's like,
Sam, what was that? Sam, what was it that where you had this, you're 33 and go, okay, I got to do something. Like what clicked? What made you say, okay, I'm gonna take this bull by the horns and make it my life better?
8 months of having your life force choked out of you really makes you appreciate life. I think one of the biggest risks that we have is complacency. When we can just kind of function in ignorance, and all of these chronic issues start, happening under the hood. That's one of the biggest dangers, I think. So I had a very big wake up call in those 8 months, just desperately trying everything. I was even doing yoga, but when I heard David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, and how he had suffered very tight psoas issues, and he was in a hospital and figured it out, and that was it's the psoas. And I think you guys also kind of have seen in your experience. I think there's so many people who are suffering from IBS that need to release those psoases, and through elongated strengthening of the psoas, not just stretching the psoas, right? Elongated strengthening happening from the toes. And that was kind of what my body was telling me in that moment before I even knew it was a psoas. I'm like, get those shoes that allow the big toe to feel the ground during the step. I just had that feeling to get those shoes and go walking up these mountains, right? To activate that whole system. Because to loosen up the psoas and the hips, it's, yes, doing work around the hip area, but really it's the toes, especially the big toe activating, and the occipital, the jaw, the approach to that I've found results to unlock the middle parts of my body have been, tapping into the extremities. That's the holistic approach that has served me very well in this process.
If you look at most rehab, if you actually go into the rehab literature, it's all there. Strengthen, start from the periphery and work your way to the area that needs it, right? So help me understand. What is? There's some moment. It sounds like, I want to echo back to Brian's question. There's some moment that you're like, I got to take the bull by the horns.
Yeah. So 8 months I'd been struggling to get life force, and that really makes you love life when you're like, okay, I don't want to go out here, I'm gonna do this. And when I finally figured out as a psoas, all these healthy habits that I built up through my diet, through movement, through breath work, all of these things that I'd been trying to diagnose and heal myself with, suddenly just brought me into this great, energetic state. Because now I'd been unchoked, and all of these good habits that I was doing, I just started going up and up and up and getting better and better. And I was great. And then the pandemic happened. I was in real estate. I had the chance to start making TikToks about this. And a lot of other people are dealing with these same issues. And I'm like, okay, this is something that is really important to me. I've gotten to a state where I'm healthy and functional. I'm all terrain. I've got no pains, no issues. I've got a lot to share. And I started thinking about my younger self, that 16, 18-year-old kid that would have really benefited from a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. Just do this, these are tools, ways of thinking, ways of moving, ways of breathing. That process took me to the Schroth Method as well, which I think is an important piece of something that is worth mentioning in this. The Schroth Method is basically understanding scoliosis from the 3D perspective and realizing it's not just a sideways curve, it's actually kind of a derotation of the spine in the middle there. So by practicing breathing into certain targeted parts of our rib cage, we can breathe into the concavities that are formed by this derotation, right? You get this derotation and then a collapse because it's not in its ideal structure. So with targeted breathing and gymnastics, or positions and poses that allow space to be created, these two things together, your breathing and your expansive space positioning, right? Position yourself for expansion, for derotation, it's incredibly powerful. And I hear these alignments happening as I'm doing this, inflating a certain part of my lungs, which is derotating my rib cage and bringing my entire body back into alignment. So it's really, really powerful stuff.
Yeah, this may sound to the listener like a little, what's the way to say it? Little foo-foo, but I can tell you it's not. It's not. If you look at intense bodybuilding, it's interesting. Very same concepts, powerlifters, right? They have to learn to brace they learn to brace. And bracing is taking an enormous breath, bearing down, activating every muscle that supports the structure of the spine. And it is a skill. And when they're lifting these immense weights, guess where they're focusing on? Rooting the foot, the toes into the ground, right? This is 101 for powerlifting in terms of, and all these concepts you're talking about, they're not, it's not like some mystic yoga thing. I mean, yes, there are mystical, yoga practices that emphasize these also, but it is also a conventional, science-based approach to loading the spine, right? Loading and unloading the spine. So, so I'm fascinated by this. So you find this approach. Where did you find this sort of approach to scoliosis?
I had heard I heard the name come up a couple times on the internet. I looked into it, and then I got the book. So it's a method developed by Katrina Schroth in Germany in the 1920s. She had her own kind of scoliosis, and then developed these methods and had summer camps in Germany there. And her daughter was also a physiotherapist who put all of this into a great yellow book. So I got that from Amazon, I think, and just went through it slowly because it is extremely dry and extremely technical. I'm not formally trained in this, in physiotherapy. So a lot of the words.
You just have 20 years of training.
I had to go.
Yeah, you just have 20 years of training, right? Or 25 years of training,
Yeah. And, it's the methods like that really helped round it out a lot of more technical things that I had been doing intuitively, but had, given it, okay, this group of people and this method has really developed a lot of valuable techniques and positions that really allow that the body to create the space as you're breathing it into alignment.
Yeah, it's only been over 100 years that was written then, so it takes a little while to get this into standard medicine. They're fringe like us, Tro.
Yeah. And so you've been dealing with doctors. You've been dealing with doctors, Sam, for what, 25 years? Did anybody tell you about this?
The Schroth Method? No.
No, so it's like conveniently left out. Is there Brian, do you know a CPT code for the Schroth Method?
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. No, I haven't seen it. I've never heard of it till right now. And that's what's so frustrating, and you go, gosh darn it, could we have helped some of these people down the road that, way back then? And it's an amazing thing when you hear that stuff like in the 1920s they figured it out, and it's not even, no one talks about it. I guarantee if we talk to a bunch of physical therapists and chiropractors, they're gonna say, what are you talking about? Like, this is a new fad thing from 1920, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, and there's the Postural Restoration Institute and functional patterns that, I think they've integrated some of that as well. And then, the Schroth Method is still taught today. There are official physiotherapists that are getting certified in it.
So what happens next to you? You find this technique, you're already doing sort of hiking and wellness, and you're doing yoga, weightlifting, and these are things you've done. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I started, I was very fortunate to grow up in a tropical part of Australia with a new age kind of hippie mom who, always had a bit of doubt against the system, but I also got a lot of exposure to a lot of these holistic and esoteric methods that are slowly kind of being backed up by science through people like the Wim Hof Method and Joe Dispenza, so I've had a lifetime of absorbing those ideas. And they are extremely connected because, yes, our breath can physically arrange our body, but integrating the emotional, psychological, even, tapping into that placebo effect and programming the breath to bring attention, to bring energy, to bring that healing flow where we need it, I think is also an area that, it's going to be hard to find a scientific study to say, well, okay, what happens when you imagine your breath sending love, sending healing, sending this bright white energy. It'd be hard to find a scientific study to back that up. But
Well,
when you
no, it's there, Sam. See, here's the thing: it's there. It's how you interpret it, right? If you look at cognitive behavioral therapy, which is basically, taking a certain emotional state, whether it's anxious or fear-based, and turning it into positive, love, gratitude, right? So this concept has been proven scientifically. It's how you then adapt it. Wim Hof, he's been subjugated. Yeah, Wim Hof subjugated himself to the, that university in Germany, and I know he has tests ongoing still, and he's showed that he has a very concrete physiologic effect from breath work on stress hormones and other physiologic parameters. It's how you apply what's there, right? So I think the data is there to apply some of this, but it's how do you quantify that exactly? This idea of gratitude or love or
Tro, I'm telling you, there's studies. I read the studies for my talk in San Diego. I didn't even get to this part of it because there was so much data on all the other stuff we're talking about. But looking at gratitude, if they took college students and if they spent 5 minutes a day, in addition to everything else they're doing, gratitude, that's it, 5 minutes a day, their depression rate was 38% below the standard population. 38% they're below their starting point when they did questionnaires, and their outlook and their study habits and all this. So you start realizing, those 5 minutes a day, this is where this woo-woo stuff we're talking about, you start realizing there's physiologic impact. So I just met with the CEO of a company. He's 38 years old, very successful, doesn't sleep at night. And I go, hey, have you ever thought about like meditation, prayer, whatever? And he goes, it's funny you say that, doc. If I meditate for 15 minutes at lunchtime, I sleep all night like a baby. I sleep all night through. And I said, well, why don't you do that? He goes, I don't have time. I'm too stressed. I'm too rushed. I'm running around like all the time. Then I think about it at night when I get home. I go, oh, shoot, I didn't meditate. He goes, I don't do it. But if I do it, it works every time. So just slowing down, and I'm telling you, Tro, this is things I've been noticing in my practice, is that when people can slow down and breathe and go watch the sunset or relax a little bit or take those 10 minutes here and there when you can to calm that nervous system down, you do better. And we have data on this. There's study after study on this. It's ridiculous. Even community involvement, volunteer work, doing kind things for other people, and breathing, like you're talking about, Sam, breathing out love, or visualization. There's tons of studies on that. As a matter of fact, there's a great story about our Olympic team when they had to swim against the East Germans, and they were like all doped up, and they killed all of them in independent in all the individual races. So in the relay, they knew they had no chance, and these women just visualized, and they like sat down and they visualized winning, and they crushed them in the finals, and no one could believe it happened. But part of it was that visualization, and just believing. And you're right, this placebo effect, or just giving someone hope to see, oh, Sam did it. He got his back. Maybe there's hope for me, and I don't have to be a hunchback when I'm 22 years old. That kind of thing.
That 4-minute mile, right? Once you see someone break it, you can as well. And you also mentioned in that college student study, right, a very key word. They had less depression. What is the opposite of depression? Inflation. What does scoliosis look like in the body? It looks like a depression, especially to one side. And whether you want to go into the emotional aspects, but I think it's worth exploring for sure, whether the masculine, the feminine. There's some, I think it'd be a good idea for more exploration in the area of, having a parental figure not be there to have that depression, that collapse. I think there's something to explore there. I think it happens in different ways for different people. You also mentioned the nervous system. There's also a very strong correlation developed by Dr. Schroth, I think it was in '68, who looked at the potential cause of scoliosis being a shortened spinal cord. So the spine actually grew more than the spinal cord. And I know myself, when I'm in these corrective positions and I'm using my breath to calm my nervous system, I'm feeling the elongation, the lengthening, the relaxation, the release of the tension that was holding certain curves in my spine. So I know very deeply that there's some truth to this. He demonstrates it with the spinal cord and an actual vertebrae, but if you want to imagine, it's like, that drawstring in your shorts, and if you kind of if you've got a shorter spinal cord, the spine is warping to compensate for that. So imagine, a teenager wincing or, clenching from their nervous system, and then having a growth spurt. Maybe they're under chronic stress, chronic anxiety, chronic depression, right? Their spine is growing, but their nervous system is like this. And so when you've got that and your spine is growing, what you're going to see is a warping like scoliosis and kyphosis.
Can I just say something? You look at ACE scores, and I know you Brian, we got to get your special guest on. ACE scores, adverse childhood adversity scores, to chronic pain, it's beyond linear, right? Meaning, like, the more childhood adversity, the more chronic pain you're going to have. And what you're describing right now, let me tell you, I see it in my own kids. One day, my son's very anxious. His hips are tight. He can't even, because they do martial arts. And I'm like, hey, let's chillax. Let's go for a walk. And then, like, he does a sit and reach. And it's like, he just scored in the 90th percentile on a sit and reach. Last time he tested, it was like the worst. And just with the alleviation of some stress and anxiety, I don't know if it's related, but that clenching you're describing due to emotional tension.
TMJ, migraine headaches, neck pain, back pain, all this stuff. You relax someone's stress. Like I said in my talk, it's like, I've yet to meet the person who said, back when I was stressed every day, I felt fantastic. Once I got relaxed and less stressed, I went downhill. Like, no one says that. Never hear it, ever. But IBS, all these things, and just amazing how we have to throw a pill at everything. Like, when you said that about antibiotics, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, it's insane. So you're going to knock the gut microbiome more out of whack to fix the IBS. Good luck. It's not going to help. But it's amazing that you went through this and go, okay, let me see what works for me. You're an N of one, and you figure out what works for you, and they go, can I apply this to other people?
Yeah. And that's what happened. That's the beauty of these social networks, is that, I'm not the most formally trained guy out there, but I've certainly been on quite a journey, and I know I can add an incredible amount of value to someone who's, in that phase. And I think we've, from your experience and from my experience, that clenching of either the hips or the jaw at an important age where we're going through these growth spurts, right? Our nervous system is clenched and tightened, and our spine is growing, and then you get that warping effect. I think that's really these ideas and the ability to regulate the nervous system, whether it's just 2 sniffs and then 1 slow mouth exhale, which Huberman is now popularizing. Whether it's just that or deeper techniques, I think these are great ideas to get out there.
Yeah, when I have to deal with Tro, I do these breathing exercises for a while before, and then right after, and it seems to help.
Yeah. So Sam, how did you go from excuse my language, unfucked my back, Jack, edit that out. You unfucked your back or worked on your back too. I want to help others, and help me understand how that transition happens.
Well, I was on a farm estate in the country of Colombia when everyone was on lockdown. And TikTok was kind of the thing. So I'm like, I was a real estate YouTuber at the time. So I started, this is a good chance to practice some TikToking. And, a couple of my early videos were like, showing how much I was elongating the spine through some of these exercises. And it was kind of like, look, I grew an inch in a minute. Because of the severity of my curve, I have quite a bit of up and down, right? We all increase and decrease our height throughout the day based on, our posture and how much gravity we've taken on that day.
Brian, there's hope for you.
Oh, yeah, good, man. I'm going to start doing this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, when we wake up, we're taller. We can be up to an inch taller just with a regular posture. With mine, I have quite a bit of a variability. So I just started making some fun videos about that, and they went really viral. And then, people were like, I started doing a couple about the posture and different things because, it's quite an obvious curve. And I realized there's a lot of people out there, and they're like, it made me remember of like the questions I had at that age, wondering like, what should I do? Should I get surgery? What like, so, some doubters like, oh, you can't fix scoliosis with breath. And so I just entered into the conversation, and the algorithms kind of just helped me enter into a really interesting conversation with the people who need it.
So, and how did you take that, and what did you create? Tell us what you've created and what you're doing, how you reach people, how you help people, how you work with them.
Yeah, I started as like a PDF, just kind of like some text, and then some people got some good results. So I'm like, okay, I opened up a Telegram membership and uploaded videos daily. I have about 57 videos in there. Everything from understanding what we're doing and which direction we're going to go here, to learning the corrective breathing, to learning strength training workouts that are much more holistic and allow that elongated strength. Obviously not, these bar squats where you're just loading weight in the wrong ways before you should, like how to release those tensions, how to program your breath. It's a bunch of stuff. I just kind of had a stream over about 3 or 4 months of just like, here's everything. Here's all the tools that you can use and understand to develop that proprioception and that interoception in your body, right? To be able to do this. So I just kind of mind dumped it all, and it's 57 videos, and I've got that community element, that chat where I can kind of help these people go through it. I want to take it deeper. I'm out here in Tulum in Mexico. I'm working with a real estate developer to actually build a custom gym that is great for posture correction, that has a bit more of the tools that I'd like to see, from the gymnastic rings to the Swedish ladder, different aspects that I'd like to see in a gym. Because I'm going to a pretty regular mainstream gym right now, and it's I know I get a lot of attention from people doing some weird stuff in there.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd imagine your workout is different than what other people are doing.
I grew up without a father in my life, so I learned how to learn from everyone, from different figures that came through. So, whether it's Wim Hof, whether it's the body keeps the score, whether it's more kind of like the qigong, whether it's yoga, Budokan, more of like an animal primal flow. From the Joe Dispenza stuff, like I've learned from everyone that I've come across and just kind of combined and fused them all together to what's most relevant and most effective for somebody who would like to kind of restructure their posture.
I've been thinking, last 10 years of my life, maybe 9 years of my life, I've devoted to metabolic disease and obesity, and really targeting it myself first, and then my patients, working through diet and lifestyle to conquer metabolic illness, systemic metabolic illness. And as I've conquered sort of my own lower back pain, I have like this drive in me to just, we need like lower back, like functional lower back clinics, chronic pain clinics that are not pushing meds and surgeries, throughout the year. So I have like these passions. Every time I face something in my life, I just want to, do exactly what you did, is, create these, guides for people so that they can, not become a victim to the medical system. Really.
Yeah, and that's the one thing, Tro. Like last night, I was having a talk with a pain specialist, really nice guy, and we were talking about stuff. When we started talking about lifestyle, stress, sleep, and all this stuff, and he goes like, "Do you really think that matters?" I was like, "Do you think chronic inflammation matters? Why are you shooting people with steroids in their back? You're fighting chronic inflammation, right?" And so, if they're drinking soda all day and they come to you for these injections, don't you think that might be a good intervention you can do, right? Or saying, "Hey, look, can we get your brain set right? If you're stressed and tense and not sleeping, good luck. Your back's going to hurt. All these things get worse with these things. So that's why when I started talking about this stuff on low carb MD, people go, no, just talk about low carb. It's what you eat. It's like, well, what you eat is going to be determined by how you're sleeping and what your stress level and how your life is. Because you can eat low carb all you want to be a jerk to everyone and fight with everyone all day and pick on people on Twitter. And your inflammatory markers, your stress hormones are through the roof. If we're trying to really focus on metabolic health and getting those stress hormones, it's not a leap to say if you can just breathe for 5 minutes a day and just relax, even if you're stressed out. If you want to pray, do meditation, yoga, all these other things, collect rocks,
Laughing,
collect stamps, laughing.
Yeah.
All these things are scientifically proven. I mean, it's in the data. So yeah, all these things you look at and go, okay, if you breathe. As a matter of fact, if you look at the vagal nerve, I never knew this, the vagus nerve. If you can, 85% of those fibers are afferent, going from the body to the brain. So if you can breathe, slow your heart rate down and relax, it's telling your brain, hey, everything's okay. Because when we're in this chronic state of stress, it's screwing up your cortisol, insulin, all these stress hormones we're trying to control with diet. I mean, we have to do it like the whole picture, like what you're talking about, Sam. That's why it's not woo-woo. It sounds like it on the surface. If you would ask me 5 years ago, I go, that's all BS, like breathing, jumping in cold water, there's going to do something, sauna, forget it. But then you realize like, yeah, it does. If you can control your body's heart rate and you could jump into cold water and control that, then when you get stressed out or upset with someone, you can control that heart rate and stress response and your blood pressure and shearing force and all this stuff. And so it's not, there's so much to it. And a guy like you who's got your life back, you go, okay, I'm going to argue with you and say you're wrong. It makes no sense.
Yeah, no, you can't do it without surgery, right? How do you feel when somebody says that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just going on, putting ideas out on the internet. You've got to release your kind of attachment to other people's ideas. If you know it to be true, if you feel it to be true, if you've seen the results in your own life, then that's what you have to remember. And I think that's been my guide. Like as I go out there, I'm like, okay, I'm always learning. I always want to learn more. But as from where I am at now, I know this is valuable to me, and it could be valuable for someone else. Just related to that diet, when I went to the doctor with this inflamed lower belly, and so that's why they thought, okay, antibiotics, IBS. I switched to a highly vegan type diet, and that made me worse. Later, I realized because of the amount of fiber. And after that, I went full carnivore for a month or two there. I got great results, although I was still choked out because of the way we absorbed the meat. I actually thought I got better, kinda, but it was kind of a false flag kind of healing thing. To this day, I do intermittent fasting. I have about 70 to 80% carnivore. Obviously, cut out the processed stuff, the seed oils, all that stuff. But yeah, you just kind of find your balance there. But I thought that might be helpful.
Yeah, that's super helpful because you try what works. You go, okay, I'm not just going to say because Sean Baker's carnivore, everyone has to be carnivore. You go, okay, what works for you? And that's why, Tony Hampton just gave a talk. He goes, N of 1 is the most important study because it's what happens for you. Doesn't matter what everyone else in the world is doing. You figure out what works for you and go, okay, I'll do it. And then the great thing about what you're doing of building a community, because someone may say, hey, Sam, have you tried this? I'm doing this and it's really helping me with my scoliosis, helping my back pain. You go, okay, let me look into that. And that's what I love about this podcast is that Tro and I have been able to talk about to the best experts in the world. We may not agree on everything, but you go, oh, okay, that's working for you. Okay, great. Lane Norton, what are you doing that's working, right? Or what are you doing this? Not that I've taken the stuff that's not going to help my patient. You go, oh, okay, let me try that. Let me, see what happens. If it doesn't work, you get rid of it and go on to the next thing, and it may work for some other person that rolls around in 2 years ago, one guy, this helped him. Let's try it. So for you saying, okay, let's look at Wim Hof. Let's look at all these different, like when you're hurting, you go, I'll do whatever it takes and figure it out. The problem is there's a lot of charlatans out there and they go, you're struggling. And, like one of my patients who's my direct primary care called me. She goes, I want to be on, one of these drugs that makes you lose weight. I don't want to give up my lifestyle and I want to be able to lose weight. I'm like, not a good choice. Here's how much it's going to cost you a month. And he's like, $1,000 a month or $1,200. It's not worth it. I'm telling you, it's not worth it anyway. So certain things like that, where people want the easy way out, or, when someone gets diagnosed with a bad thing or that they charge all this money to help them instead of saying, hey, let me try to help as many people as I can. So that's what I love about what you're doing. And hopefully eventually you get a course together that you go, okay, you got scoliosis. Here's what we're going to do to help you. Here's the steps that I took, try it out and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, the 56 videos, they provide a lot of guidance, but I know there's another iteration coming that's really going to be that. And I'm literally about to do that, working more one-on-one with people because every single spine is different. I did want to speak on, pain has come up a few times. And I think one of the most useful things for people in pain, or one is looking for words beyond pain. So, is it an ache? Is it a pinching? Is it a tingling? Is it a numbness? By addressing it with a bit more of an accurate word, it allows you to pay attention to it better, and it'll also give you clues to the direction that your healing is in, right? So when we say, "Oh, I have pain," or I have my back pain, it's really making us a victim. But if we say, "I have an aching, my lower back is aching," then we get a clue over to where that goes, right? The definition of pain that we use in the dojo, in the posture dojo, is pay attention, integrate now. So the words that we describe that pain with allow us to pay better attention. And that better attention allows us to integrate what we need to integrate. And that may be the way we're sitting, the way we're thinking. It could be emotional, physical, spiritual. It could be from any direction. But your body will know if you kind of calm the nervous system and listen. Your body will tell you.
Yeah, I want to just absolutely echo that. My chronic lower back ache and pinching, right, with some radiation. When I'm just being a little cute, but with this, the first thing the doctors told me is, "Well, let me take you out of pain. Here's a pill. Here's an injection." And I thought to myself, like, they have no clue why I'm here. I'm not here because of my ache, my pain, right? I am here to conquer disease, right? I'm here to conquer what it is I'm facing. And if you give me pain relief, if I couldn't handle it, of course I would, I would have taken it. If my quality of life was so desperately low, I'd want to be out of pain. But when I lose that pain signal, right? When I lose that pain signal, I don't learn what my body needs to get out of pain, right? What I needed was to open up my hips, strengthen my glutes, right? And what I needed was not compressing my spine, exactly what you said. And what I needed was to get rid of the everyday insults, sitting with a contracted psoas all day, right? And with a weak contracted psoas. Right. So the thing
it's funny you say that, Tro, because I was thinking no one would go in with a huge laceration on their forearm and they're bleeding out, and the doctor goes, "Oh, we can control the pain here. Here's some pain management. We'll see you in a few weeks." Right. But when it's something they can't see,
Bingo.
They can't put pressure on it. They just go, "Here, we'll cover up the symptoms." Like the reality, like what we're talking about is root cause. Why am I having this? Why do we have this scoliosis? When they say idiopathic, it just means the doctors are idiots and they don't know what they're talking about most of the time, right?
Bingo.
And because there's always a cause, like idiopathic hypertension, like.
But they think,
idiopathic?
Brian, they think they're doing a service. So they thought they were going to do a service for me. They're like, "I'm going to give you these meds. I'm going to give you an injection right where it hurts." And they think they're helping. But really what they would be doing...
Well, they are temporarily because your pain goes better and you get your life back. But then
they get
they get paid every time you come in.
They get paid. They get a false sense of purpose. But in the reality, what happens is my suffering would continue. So it took me saying, I am okay with my ache, my pain, I am okay with it. And luckily God was good. I was okay. I was able to be okay with it. But I needed that pain so that I learned what to do.
Pain's there for a reason. It's reminding you, don't do something dumb. Don't pick up this, 50-pound weight with one hand and bend, like that pain is there. There's a physiologic reason for that. And as a matter of fact, there's a device I've been using for inflammation, and it really helps with pain, but it doesn't heal the problem underneath it, right? It makes the pain better and the inflammation goes down and things get better, but you can't go run a marathon on that bad knee still. You know what I mean? It's still damaged. So there's things like that where you start realizing, but the reality is doing what you're talking about, Sam, helping to look at and no matter what it is, if you're a stress eater, if we can control the stress, eat less. If you get your life in order, it helps. If you have back, what's his name? Sarno or Sarna Tro, that backed
Sarno.
that?
Yeah, John Sarno.
Yeah, he's talking
what a
about
great-
this stuff. He goes, "This is all emotional stuff. You get your emotions right. You start working on things. You get your peace, and so all of a sudden that neck pain starts getting better, and that tension starts getting better. But it's really, saying, hey, look, it seems dumb. You're going to stretch your toes out, and it's going to help your back, but do what works. I don't care if it works. It works.
As above, as below, right? And I think we can look at that, in the physical body, but also in that emotional body. And that's why I think it's worth exploring, when it comes to why that nervous system is wincing or clenching. Is it emotional? Is it a collapse of support? Is it like taking shortcuts? That's always been a part of my personality, was taking shortcuts, right? And I feel like when that posture was developing, my body took a shortcut, so looking at things from different dimensions and like, okay, well, I'm not going to be that person. I'm going to develop that part of my personality to not take those shortcuts and do the work, do the harder thing, right? Instead of just going with the compensation and just kind of, all right, it's like that, right? So like you can go deeper and deeper with this. And I think it's just like, we're here to live and become, the best version of ourselves anyway. So having these types of postural challenges, I'm very grateful for that. It's been a great excuse to go extremely deep into who I am and how I can decide and be empowered about what I'm becoming.
I think you hit the nail on the head here, which is empowerment. Empowerment is the root of healing. If you ask me what we do professionally, we work with, large companies, and now we have 2 companies that we're working with, and, they ask us how we do, how is it they do, these CEOs are like, they ask us, well, what is it that you're doing? All we're doing is empowering people to heal themselves. That's it, and not letting other people box them into disease, right? Like not being like, just like that doctor who said to me, you need an injection, you need a pill, you need surgery, right? And if I needed it, I would have done it, right? Yep. And if I had IBS and I was told I need antibiotics, I need fiber, I need this, and it, like, you get boxed into these corners. If you have diabetes, you need, GLP-1, insulin. If you have depression, you need SSRIs. Like, don't become a victim of that medical state. You can conquer it.
Yeah, tapping into our body's innate ability to heal. And I think there's a lot of overlap into the way we've always kind of had these religions that structure faith and structure hope into our minds psychologically. Like there's a lot of overlap with some of those ideas, whether, our body is healing itself or it's just part of a greater system that we just need to surrender to have faith in, right? And the more faith we have, we're actually kind of tapping into that placebo effect. So there's, I think, overlap between those ideas. Whatever it actually is, the most important thing for us is the story that we're telling ourselves and believing, faithfully. And that is going to be the thing that's really, I think, getting out of the way, surrendering to the innate intuition, the innate life force that wants to flow through our body in our, electromagnetic field that we're functioning with our more electric brain and magnetic heart. We're running this biomechanism. Let's optimize that and allow that optimal flow. Sometimes we got to trust our intuition, I think, to make that happen. So that's kind of a big part
and there's a lot of truth to that. I've been looking at that. There's a book called Cured where this guy went around, doctor went around to all these different places where people got, faith healings, or they had, veganism and they got healed or whatever it is. But in his ultimate, he said, ultimately, I think it's that they believed in something and went all in and go, okay, I'm going to believe, and I'm not going to worry about this extraneous BS that we deal with every day. And it's like, okay, if that can cure us, then can it prevent us from getting sick too? If we just are zen and don't worry about as much stuff. If we go to Mexico and build a clinic and do stuff that we can, like that positivity that you put out. So that's the benefit you have of having a hippie mom who said, hey, let's look at all these different options. But there's so many doctors who are like this. And if you deviate from this, right, this straight line, then you're a quack, you're idiotic. But look at my patients doing better. That's what Tro and I have been facing for 5 years. And all the stuff we said 5 years ago, Tro, I'm happy to say, like, we have great doctors and researchers who come and go, oh, look, by the way, I mean, and there's stuff we don't understand. I just met a lady last night and her son. I'm hoping to get them on one of my podcasts, but he had retinosa pigmentosa, like Asher syndrome. You go 100% by the time he was 8, he was blind and deaf. And then they started doing like, mind healing and breathing and meditation and all these things. And I've seen his studies and you go, crud, man, he reversed his disease and he could see. And he was suicidal and wanted to die. And his mom was talking about taking him somewhere to give euthanasia when he was like 18. That's what he wanted. He goes, that's all I want is to die. I can't do anything. I'm blind and deaf. And then he got his vision and hearing back. And I was talking to him for, an hour last night going, man, this is crazy. And looking at his studies, and his eye doctors are still going, we don't know what happened. Like, this is crazy. But part of it was, she was saying, is like, if you believe and you just get out of the way, get out of the way of all the negativity and stress and tension that we think is so hokey and crazy, but it's like, it does make a difference. And if you believe, you can get better, right? And how much of that is just the power of the mind to heal? Like, straightening up a spinal cord is crazy to me, right? And like, seeing it happen and hearing about it and getting your life back, like that's an N of one miracle.
It is, and I'm grateful to be here. I think that's only just made me more grateful. And I mentioned I've done real estate. When I'm planning out where I'm spending my time, this just feels like this is what I need and should be doing. So this is I'm very grateful to be on this path right now.
How do people reach you, Sam, if they wanted to? Where do people find you? If they wanted to get a hold of you? If there's
Instagram or TikTok, they can find me, the Flow Wolf. Flow Wolf being that anagram, I think, right? Back to front. Or theflowwolf.com as well. That has information about Posture Dojo, which is a community of about 50 people that I'm working with on all types of moderate to severe posture correction.
Okay. When are we getting the invite to Tulum, or where are you? You're in the Yucatan, right? You said Tulum?
Yep, I'm in Tulum, and we've got some beautiful villas, which are actually going to be great for a retreat. So I'd love to host you guys.
Actually, you know what?
Yeah, you know what, man? Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. Do a retreat down there, chill, nutrition, lifestyle, all that. That's so.
I saw important. A gym in Tulum that looked kind of interesting. It was like a sort of like a natural jungle gym sort of thing,
Yeah, which is good. They've got some good stuff, but it's definitely like aesthetic Instagram. This place this whole town became famous because of Instagram, and it's just very idyllic and perfect beaches. And then cenotes, which are crystal clear water holes. The whole place is a limestone sponge. So very, very connected to the natural elements, which are perfect for that type of healing retreat. And as I mentioned, being able to develop my own kind of custom gym for this stuff, I can't wait. So that's over the next 2 months. That should be ready.
Sam, do me a favor, send me an email and let's link up, contact. Maybe me and Brian will do a retreat out in Tulum. Who knows?
Yeah, man. I'm all in, man. Tro, you want to get me to New York City or Tulum? Guess where I'm going, man. Easy decision.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I don't have to have vegan Fridays and whatever.
Oh yeah.
No. Mondays,
we'll get some nice steak. We'll get some nice steak in the Yucatan. Oh, don't do that.
Man, he's
gonna
rub it in. Yeah, he's rubbing it in now.
Sam, come on.
Come on, man.
That's not fair.
Yeah, it looks super nice. I'm looking at my wall and Tro, and you're looking at this beautiful nature behind you. Yeah, that's all good. It's all good. But someday, who knows, Tro, what happens, how the world spins, right?
Yeah.
Tro and I are going on a cruise together.
Yeah,
maybe a work cruise, man. That's gonna be fun next year.
Maybe we'll do a Tulum retreat.
Dude, the poor people, Tro, that are signed up for that cruise, are like Brian and Tro are both on the same boat, and we're stuck with them for how long? A week, 10 days, something like that.
They don't understand what they're getting into.
Oh my gosh,
we got to get them on,
man. But everyone's
we got to figure out.
I already interviewed her. We'll throw her on this podcast too. We'll double it up. Yeah. We'll do a special release. So,
Sam, thank you so much. This has been awesome. We'll put all your social media stuff in the show notes, and just thank you for coming out and telling your story.
Yeah, and Sam, send us all your connections, all your YouTube stuff, and all that, and we'll put in the show notes so people can find you. And you know, people have already said that they want to get their family members a copy of this because a lot of people, I mean, back pain, neck pain, all these things are so debilitating. And so, anything we could do to help with psoas spasm, and people just don't know. They just don't realize they're getting all these pain meds. And if we could just help out that muscle and everything. And yeah, you're doing good work, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for what you guys are doing as well. It's been a great conversation. I know I can see we've arrived on a lot of similar ideas. So looking forward to collaborating in the future.